What happens when your dream home turns into a real-life nightmare? That's the creepy story told in the new hit Netflix series called The Watcher, and it's based on a true story. In 2014, Derek Broaddus, an insurance executive, and his wife Maria bought this $1.3 million six-bedroom home in the suburb of Westfield, New Jersey. Bought it for themselves and their three kids. In the series, they're called Dean and Nora Braddock and played by Bobby Cannavale and Naomi Watts. After beginning renovations, the couple began receiving creepy letters from an anonymous person calling him or herself the Watcher, and claimed to have been watching the house for years as their father and grandfather had before them. Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here? I will find out. More letters followed. The writer showed familiarity with the family's children, referred to them as young blood, and threatened, quote, once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me. The family reported the letters to the local police. They hired a private investigator, but to this day, they have never learned who sent them. The Watcher, based on a story published by my next guest, Reeves Weideman, in New York Magazine in 2018. He recently revisited the case in a piece called Taking Another Look at the Watcher, What We Know About the Case 4 Years Later. Reeves joins me now. He's a features writer at New York Magazine. So how many letters in total and over what time period?
The Broaddus family received basically 3 letters sort of within the first roughly 6 weeks after buying the house. Beyond that, we know that there was one other letter that had gone to the house shortly before they bought it, and one other letter that they received then 3 years later when the house was sort of embroiled in some more local controversy.
And Reeves, I know from your great piece, they bought the house not knowing that the former owner had received one similar letter. Was there any obligation on the part of that seller to disclose it?
No, there wasn't. I mean, this is one of those things where it's sort of in a gray area, and there's no legal requirement to report something like getting kind of an unusual letter. And the people who sold the house said that, you know, the letter they received was kind of odd and strange, but wasn't the same kind of threatening letter that the Broadduses received. And they say they just sort of, it was weird, but they threw it away.
I get that it was 8 years ago. I would think that if it happened today, there's so many cameras all over the place and, you know, Ring doorbells. No video, no DNA gave the cops anything to go on here?
Well, there wasn't any video. I mean, these were sent through the mail, so this wasn't something that someone came up and dropped it off. Eventually, investigators did actually put cameras at the local post office to try to see if they could see anyone coming to drop anything off, but that didn't lead anywhere. The one piece of forensic evidence we have is there is a DNA sample from one of the envelopes. It's from saliva that was used to lick the envelope shut. And the only thing that we know is that the DNA was apparently from a woman. So it seems that at least the person who licked that envelope close was apparently a woman.
Is it an active investigation? Are the Westfield cops still on this?
Not really. I mean, there was a certain point at which this got escalated to the county prosecutor's office, and it's now been, as you said, 8 years since the case came out, sort of 4 years since our story came out and kind of re-energized the investigation again. You know, I've been told that short of more evidence or a really promising lead, the police haven't closed the case, but they also aren't actively investigating it at this point.
Again, I know from your reporting on the real story, because a lot of liberties are taken by Netflix in telling it, I get that. They really never moved into the property. They were engaged in renovations, and they had the crap scared out of them, and I guess so too their kids, so they didn't move in. I have to believe when they finally were able to sell the house, and that's a struggle, but when they finally go to another property, I'll bet they wondered, uh-oh, I hope we're not going to get a letter here too. You know, like maybe it's something about us. Were there any letters ever sent to the Broaddus family? Did any letters go to whomever did buy the house, or did it end?
Yeah, that was obviously a concern, but there haven't been. They haven't gotten letters at their new home, and the new owners also haven't gotten any letters. So whoever was doing this, it does seem that they've stopped for whatever reason, whether that's all the attention that's come to this case and not wanting to be caught, or realizing kind of how awful this was that they had done this. Whatever
Or
reason
they're
it is, it
dead.
seems like they've stopped. What's that?
Or they're
Or they're
dead.
dead. It's also possible. I mean, that's also certainly a possibility.
I know many of us are caught up in the Netflix version. I encourage everybody to simply Google and access your piece, because the real story is fascinating. Thank you for your willingness to come here and tell it.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
More social media from the world of Twitter about the Watcher, I presume. What does it say? I just love how well it captured the feeling that everyone is batshit crazy. What could I possibly add to that? Russ, you've said it all.